Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Bucs.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Howdy ho, howdy hey, how the hell are you? College football championship Saturday is on the horizon. And you know what that means. We're getting into the nitty-gritty part of the 2023 NFL season as well as college wraps up. NFL is near wrapping up, but we still got a lot of football left and a lot to dissect. Between draft talk and playoff talk, you never know what the hell to talk about nowadays, especially with the NFC South the past couple of years. No one's ever officially been out of the race. The Panthers still aren't officially out of the race this season. So this is a big one on the line here for Tampa, Carolina, this Sunday, 3:05 Central Time, 4:05 Eastern Time on CBS. And none other than Mikey Pastor, my man, to talk about it with. He's going to bring his Panthers insights and knowledge to the table, and we're going to chop it up with him about the current Frank Reich situation, David Tepper, Bryce Young, all that stuff. There's just so much to kind of unchew with both of these franchises right now, for better or for worse. And then, of course, we got the right-hand man, J-Lo, one of the great co-hosts of the Buccaneers. J-Lo, how the hell you feeling this morning, brother? Happy Saturday to you, my friend.
Thank you. Happy Saturday, brother. Feel great, man. College football championship Saturday. It's going to be a lot of interesting games. I enjoyed last night's game.
It's really one of those days that are a lot of fun in college football, in my opinion. And the older you get, the more you appreciate these sorts of weekends of football and the more you appreciate division games. And we do have a division game tomorrow, although for better or for worse, people are going to have to be watching this game. And Mikey, first off, thanks so much for joining, brother. It's been so long. It's an honor. We go way back. Me and Mikey used to write together, contribute together for the Time Skew podcast years and years ago, and we've stayed in touch over time. He's a great Panthers personality on X. You guys can follow him and keep up with his thoughts and tweets, or X's, whatever you want to call them, at SZN Panthers over on X. Ain't that right, Mikey?
That is correct.
How you doing, brother? Thanks for coming on. Happy Saturday to you. And for better or for worse, we got Bucs Panthers to talk about for the first time in a couple of years, so I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be an exciting game. Is it the Baker revenge game?
Should be the Baker revenge game, but I'll say this. Last year, when we played Carolina and you guys had Steve Wilks as your interim head coach, I know probably a little bit of a different story. Well, maybe. We're not sure how this year's going to play out, but Steve Wilks and you guys ended up kicking our cans in. So, you know, you heard the Bucs front office, you heard the players talk all week that, hey, Baker Mayfield was on that team last year that did beat the Bucs at that point in time, and he said he knows what it's like to rally around an interim coach. He was there first and foremost last year. Mikey, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that is any play of the game, a factor in the game? Do you think an interim head coach is going to hurt this Panthers team, help this Panthers team? Only problem is it is the first week after the interim head coach, so he can't quite implement everything he wants. Coach Tabor, he can't, you know, quite overhaul everything yet. He has fired a couple of coaches, but in terms of game plan and calling plays, probably not going to look a ton different this week. But in terms of energy in the locker room, buying in and all that stuff, Mike, what is the current state of the Panthers under a coaching change this far into the year?
I think it's going to be a team that's going to fight harder. knowing that their coach that was just hired last offseason only got 11 games and has been fired. Um, from what I've seen on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, the interviews, the press conferences, the team sounds different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they really bought into what Frank Wright was trying to do. A lot of the stuff that the players and coaches are saying, they're wording it nicely, I would say. And like a lot of them said, it's on them. It's on the players that got them fired because they didn't execute. As for what we're going to see this up tomorrow, I think it's going to be a completely different team. Thomas Brown is taking back play calling, and he doesn't have Frank Wright kind of holding, being right there behind him, trying to fix what play calls. A lot of what was reported was that the Panthers offense was very stagnant because of Frank Wright.
As was the Colts last year with them as well.
Agreed. And Thomas Brown, coming from the Rams, even in his opening press conference, he said that he likes a lot of motion and kind of confusing the defense. So I'm curious to see what he pulls out tomorrow.
I think that you make a lot of great points there, and I think it can't get worse. And I think Frank Reich is kind of one of those stale head coaches, right? Like, I think he could be an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach, and I think he has a home in this league. But he's one of those guys where I think Carolina kind of rushed to the altar with the guy like Frank Reich. You know, they've seen him as still, hey, here's a guy. Did he get the crap end of the stick with the crazy Jim Irsay in Indianapolis? You know, maybe it was Irsay. He hired Jeff Saturday, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, or even though I was all in on Jeff Saturday, I love that guy. But, you know, that's a different story. But I'll say this. Frank Reich made it out to be, you know, people thought, hey, I felt bad for this guy. This guy, you know, got the short end of the stick, when in reality, he's just not that great of a head coach, in my opinion. He showed a lot of flaws in Indianapolis over the years. I know they had 5 different quarterbacks, but if you watch his end-game play calling, his decision-making, he's kind of like an offensive Todd Bowles a little bit. You know, he's just a little discombobulated. He's all over the place. And sure, with a good roster, these guys can get you to 500 seasons or barely limping into the playoffs. But J-Lo, Bucs Raise Bolt says, what chances Bucs win tomorrow? I'm just thinking to myself, is there any chance this team led by Todd Bowles could win the game tomorrow?
I mean, it all depends who shows up. I mean, Devin White's not going to play, which it sounds really mean, but maybe it's for the best because I feel like
we got KJ and JJ, baby. It's like Starksy and Hutch tomorrow, you know?
Hey, sometimes change is good, you know. Sometimes maybe putting some young bucks in there to go in there and try to make plays might be a good thing. We'll wait and see on that. I mean, this should be a game where we should win. Maybe not dominate, but at least, you know, win the game by at least 1 or 2 scores, if you ask me. You know, but you never know when it comes to this coaching staff and who shows up. You know, I think Baker's doing the best he can to get the ball rolling. But like you said, in the locker room after the game, it may seem like not everybody was there. You know, not everybody's there in the locker room. It's just him and a few people. But I think for sure that we should get a win tomorrow, and you know, no excuses. You know, and maybe not the defense helps, but at least the offense should be able to get the ball rolling on a Carolina team that has a pretty good defense. But at the same time, though, they're depleted as a team, and I don't see a repeat from last year where we just got dominated. I think this team's more motivated to go in there and win at home for the home team.
Yeah, and we got a great question from Tyler that J-Lo and I are going to discuss here in a minute about Todd Bowles and the Bucs front office not really moving on from people in the middle of the season and if that could change. But we have another question that I want to get Mike's opinion on here and kind of, you know, the scope of the Panthers. Over the years, Mike, when you watch Carolina, I feel like, you know, before Tom Brady, us Bucs fans really got used, and J-Lo can attest to this, the 1 o'clock Eastern time slot. Everything felt a little different because, the Bucs were always in the 1 o'clock Eastern slot. Nowadays, even life after Brady, you get a little more primetime games. You get 4 o'clock games, and some Bucs fans still aren't used to that yet. As a Panthers fan, do you like the 4 o'clock start time, Mike? I know a couple weeks back you guys had one against Indianapolis, I believe, and it's kind of new to some Bucs fans still. I'm a fan of the 4:05 personally, but I'd rather have 4:25. I'm going to be honest. I hate the 05 because it's like let the 1 o'clock games finish out and then put every game at 4:25. But I do like the later start, quote unquote later start. What say you, Mike? As a Panthers guy, what's your favorite time slot?
I love those 4 o'clock games. I get because with me living in Washington State, the games are at 10 start for me. So I get to sit back, drink some coffee, have some breakfast, watch all the games, and look at my fantasy, see what's going on, switch between the games. And then when it hits that 4 o'clock for you guys, 1 o'clock for us, I feel like it's the same teams that play just about every week. It's either Dallas, Seattle, San Francisco, now Philly. So being able to watch my game there instead of watching one of those 4 teams, it's nice.
That is nice. And J-Lo, on top of the Bowles comment, what say you on the time slot? Tyler, before we get to his comment, says on TV, I don't care about game time. Well, it does make, I guess, geographical wise, it is a crazy spread, right? Because you're out in Washington State, like Mike, and you have games starting, at 10 a.m. his time, which isn't 1 p.m. in J-Lo's time. You literally have a 3-hour frame gap, which is really a crazy time difference, especially in the morning games and the night games, right? The afternoon games, whether it's 4:05, 3:05, or 1:05, at least it's all kind of a little in the heart of the day. But for those night games or morning games, man, that East-West coast stretch can be a bit different. So, J-Lo, what say you about the game times? Tyler says he doesn't care, and Tyler's a great friend of the show's, great season ticket holder of the Bucs, so his opinion is very much valued. J-Lo, are you along the same lines?
No, I agree with Tyler. Living here in Tampa, 4 o'clock's actually really good. I do agree with that because it does get hot most of the season. I think we only get maybe 2 cool games out of the year, if you ask me. Because I've been a season ticket holder in the past, and I know the feeling of 1 o'clock games suck. TV time, yeah, it doesn't matter. I can watch it at 1 or 4:25. I do agree with you. 4:25, I say let the 1 o'clock games pass by. Then we can focus on our team, when they play at that time. But being there live, yeah, 4 o'clock is necessary. Absolutely.
And now we're all going to get to this. We're even going to get Mike's take on it as a Panthers guy. And we'll start with you on this one, J-Lo. The Bucs haven't, at least since the Glazers have owned the team, have fired a head coach mid-season. If we lose tomorrow, do you believe it's a possibility? I'll go ahead and start, then we'll give it to J-Lo and end up with Mike's take on it. I don't think so. I'm going to give a couple of reasons why, and as much deserve as he maybe should get fired if he loses tomorrow to Carolina, he has a legitimate case to bring a couple of things to the table and lay it out for ownership and say, hey, you should at least get me to the end of the season for X, Y, and Z. They're technically not going to be eliminated from playoff contention regardless tomorrow. Whether you like it or not, the worst the Bucs will be with still 5 games left in the season, we'll be 2 games back. So he could say, hey, let me at least try and figure it out this year, get into the playoffs this year. B, Baker Mayfield. Hey, he's been our only good free agent signing, really. We signed him to a really cheap deal. Guess what? Baker was my guy. You wanted Ryan Neal. You wanted Greg Gaines. You wanted the other guys. I wanted Baker. So he has that going for him. And C, if you're a Bucs fan, you should almost want Bowles to finish the year, because whether it's for better or for worse, he's either going to figure it out a little bit and will probably just do enough to make the playoffs, or he's going to crap his pants so damn bad, which it looks like that might sadly be the route we're going. We'll see. Time will tell. But he's going to shit the bed so bad that we're going to end up with the top 5 to 8 draft picks. So one way or another, I think Bowles should stick around for better or for worse, and I think you let it play out. I don't think you fire him, even if they do lose tomorrow, and as deserving it would be. I personally don't think it happens. It's not like the Glazers haven't seen this before. We had a 2-14 year with Lovie Smith. We've had some really ugly endings with Dirk Cutter, Greg Schiano, and Raheem Morris, and all of them survived those seasons, right? And once again, Todd Bowles, not defending the guy. I don't think he's done a good job at all, and I don't think he's a great head coach by any means. And again, I'm not defending him, but the two situations he was put in last year wasn't his coaching staff. He got hired very late in the season, and his hands were kind of tied with the roster and coaching staff damn near at that point. And this year, he got handed the team $55 million in debt with an expiring Tom Brady retirement contract. So he has a lot he could potentially bring to the table. Not saying it's deserving or not, but J-Lo, what say you on that?
No, I agree. Like I said, I mean, another point I want to throw out there is, I mean, if they did fire Todd Bowles, which I don't think is going to happen because the Glazers are known not to do that, you know, who will be able to run the team? Who can step in the plate and run the team? Canals can. He's brand new on the fly. You know, Larry Foote. I mean, I just don't see anybody that can do any better than Bowles. And another thing, the players love Bowles. At least most of them do. They love Bowles. That's why, you know, when you got guys like Dean who decided to take a cheaper contract to stay here because he likes Bowles. You know, those are things you got to look at, you know. And, yeah, Bowles, you know, he gives me a headache a lot. And I have said some mean things in the past because we're fans, you know, we get upset like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see anybody that can step in, you know, and doing the job any better. Because Armstrong's a joke. That's one guy who I wish they just cut loose.
He should have been
He's a
fired
joke.
years ago. And we've had so many scapegoats with him too, right? That's a great point, J-Lo. Pinion got cut. Suckup got cut. You know.
And we haven't had a real kick returner, and our kicking coverage is not that good. There's times where we give up like 30 yards, you know, on a punt return, which takes away, you know, the field advantage. I mean, there's just so many things, you know. Yeah, you know, Bulls, you know, probably will be gone to this year. You know, it just depends. Because to me, like I told you on the last pod, the only way he keeps his job is if he wins a playoff game. Even if you get into the playoffs, he has to win a playoff game to show some kind of improvement that he can lead this team. You know, those are just things you got to look at. And Bucs fans probably won't agree with it. But at the end of the day, this is what we got. And all we can do is root for our team and root for the best and think our division sucks.
Mike, as a Panthers fan, what's your take on the Todd Bowles situation to begin with? And B, how many NFC South openings do you think we'll have at year's end? We already have Carolina, and then we'll probably get the two teams, whoever doesn't make the postseason, whether it's Atlanta, New Orleans, or Bucs. Bowles, Dennis Allen, and Art Smith could all very much be on the hot seat. I think we at least get two, if not up to three.
Yeah, I think three. If Atlanta takes it, I think New Orleans moves on. It's since Sean Payton's been there, has not been good, or since he left. He took over with, yes, very bad cap space, but Sean Payton was able to make it work. They still have the GM. I think Dennis Allen just hasn't had that. He hasn't been able to motivate the team. And as for Todd Bowles, I don't think he gets fired after tomorrow if they lose. I think because you guys theoretically still have a chance to make the playoffs, they will let that play out. If until you guys are officially eliminated or you guys make it, I think he stays.
And that's my main consensus. I think that's a great point. The fact of the matter, for better or for worse, how sad it is, I'm not sure. But the Bucs are still alive regardless and in the swing of things. And I'm going to answer this question, Bucs, Grays, Bolts. Get elite coach before season over. You cannot talk to coaches outside of the organization until a certain point of time hits of the year, right? This isn't the MLB. So MLB, you could fire someone, you could talk to someone and hire him really whenever you want. Football, you cannot do that. You got to, promote from in-house an interim coach or pull in from an outside. Like Jeff Saturday was literally the one-off time that happened, and look at how that ended, and just didn't go so well. So you really can't negotiate with these cats under contract at this point in time in terms of legal head coaching 10 years down the road. So the Bucs can't legally talk to Harbaugh about their head coach opening right now. Well, potential head coach opening, because Bowles is still under contract as well. So any sorts of shenanigans right now would be, you know, a lot of money fines heading the Glazers' way, and they don't want to pay those fines, J-Lo.
And Riss was in the draft pit too. You can lose draft pits for that, for tampering. You can't do it. Like I said, I mean, yeah, Harbaugh sounds nice, but right now we got to see them play out. I don't even want to talk about replacement coaches until
we need to, right?
Of course. And that's just the way I see it. Yeah, there's some names that fly in my head, but right now I think the Bucs' focus is trying to make the playoffs and win what we got. And hats off to Jason Light doing the best he can with a bad salary cap, paying out Tom Brady's credit card. So at the end of the day, I feel like we got the talent. It's just Bowles needs to wake up.
Balling on a budget.
Yes. He needs to, but Bowles needs to wake up and get his defense to play. Put the guys that deserve to be in there. So that's why tomorrow it's going to be interesting to see how the middle linebacker position looks. I mean, you never know. Maybe they might play 10 times better, but finally, when we talked about Devin White, if he's hurt, get him off the field. And finally it shows, put him on the bench, rest his foot. If he's out for a couple games, I'm fine with that. And then if he's better, then maybe he'll produce better. Just the fact that the way he missed that tackle against Gardner Minshew, there's just something not right. Like, any other day he would have made that tackle easily. But that just shows that, when a player's hurt, put him on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Stop risking more of the season by playing an injured guy who's not playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Carlton had a pretty better game against the Colts, but even he's battling a hip injury. We don't know how good his coverage is going to be. So I mean, those are just things I think we Bucs fans don't realize, that when a player's hurt, they're not going to play the same. They're going to play not so good. I mean, there's just so many stories in the locker room we'll never know. And finally, White, after most of us realize that he is hurt, I mean, we're not doctors here, but we can tell that something's just not right. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, J-Lo. I think that's a great point, and something's clearly been wrong with Devin White. He just hasn't been playing great, but you got to sit him down a couple games, and maybe we get better linebacker play out of KJ and JJ. Is their favorite Canadian. Steppin Pepin says, "What's up, guys? What up, Step? Hope you're doing good this morning in the land of Canada, brother. Appreciate it." And no, hell no. Devin White's not going to get close. You know what Devin White's going to get? Devin White is going to get a 1-year prove-it deal like Sean Murphy Bunting did this offseason. When Murphy Bunting went to Tennessee, he signed like $4 or $5 million deal. Devin White might get a little more. He might get $1 to $7, $8 million, but he is not going to get anywhere near that money. He hasn't lived up to his draft hype. And speaking of draft hype, I want to ask Mikey a couple Panthers things. As Bucs Raise Bold says, if Bucs destroy tomorrow, what to do then? Well, if the Bucs destroy Carolina tomorrow, have faith. That means we played a good game, and that means we did good work against Bryce Young. Speaking of Bryce Young, Mike, what has been your early thoughts on Bryce Young? I think he's kind of gotten the short end of the stick, no pun intended there, but tomorrow, he'll face Kalijah Kancey in this Bucs front seven, and one thing, Kalijah Kancey kept getting questions all offseason. Hey, Bryce Young got drafted, this and that, and Kalijah Kancey kept saying, well, I was a first-round pick and got drafted too. So, this is going to be a fun little battle, defense, offense, 2 first-round draft picks, Bryce Young, Kalijah Kancey. Who do you think gets the better of each other tomorrow, Bucs offense or Bryce Young? And what have been your overall thoughts on Bryce Young to this point in general?
So, I am very critical of Bryce Young. I didn't want him to begin with. I wanted Stroud. From when we were picking at 9, doing all the mock drafts at the end of last season, trying to figure out a way how Stroud is going to drop to 9. Obviously, it wasn't ever going to happen. So when we moved up and I saw what we traded, and I'll tell you, I was upset when I saw DJ Moore's name on there.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, I was like, okay, we could figure it out. But we're getting a quarterback. The whole time I thought it was Stroud. All the pro days, everything was looking towards Stroud. When it came to about the week of the draft, I was like, okay, we're going to get our franchise quarterback. Don't care if it was Stroud or Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Those were the two that I did not want. And it was obviously Bryce Young. There was concerns about his size and everything. And after that first game against Atlanta, throwing the 2 picks in the same exact spot, I had my doubts. But as time went on, I was told, give it a few games. Let him play a couple games and then see. It was his first game. Then he did decent. I think he had another pick or a fumble week 2. And then comes week 3 when they come to Seattle, he's hurt. So-called hurt. I don't believe he was actually hurt. I think there was a false ankle injury that was reported, and that's what sat him out because Seattle's a tough place to play.
Mm-hmm.
You're 0-2 going into Seattle as a rookie. You don't want to put your rookie quarterback into that situation. So threw Andy Dalton in there. Said, go have fun. He almost won us the game somehow. I think he had like over 300 yards. But Bryce has just had a bunch of turnovers, and that's what I need to see him cut back on. I feel like when I'm watching the games, there could be at least one interception or one fumble or one pick six a game for him, which I feel like looking back at his Alabama tape, he took care of the ball. So
I agree with you there, and I guess we'll see as the season goes on. But I do agree with you in the sense that he's got to play turnover-free football. That was such a big part of his game at the college level. I mean, in the NFL, usually not all the time, but usually if you win the turnover battle, you're winning the game. So it's whoever makes less mistakes. It's whoever limits their mistakes. And right now, Bryce Young is making a lot of mistakes. Now, are those rookie mistakes, or are those going to continue to be like a Jameis Winston type thing and grow with the kid? Time will only tell, but I'll say this. You guys got to really do a good job of whoever head coach is over in Carolina next. You got to give him all the help in the world offensively, both talent-wise and coaching-wise, because this year, to me, I agree with you. At first you see DJ Moore, but you could talk yourself out of it. But to me, they didn't really give him a great backup plan. As James Ruberite, the Godfather, says, good morning, men. Good morning, Godfather. Thanks for joining us. I understand Thielen's having a nice year, but he's more of a receiver 2 at this point in time, right? They really never replaced that wide receiver 1, and they kind of let a really nice-looking Devontae Foreman go. And I know they brought in Miles Sanders. He hasn't really panned out, but, I think the team kind of set him up a little bit for failure between bringing in Frank Reich and not really bolstering that offense up. Mike, what are your thoughts on that? That's just me from the outside. I know they brought in, quote-unquote, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, Hayden Hurst, but let's be honest, that's a cast of rejects at this point. Maybe not Thielen, but it's not like a contender was knocking at his door saying, hey, Adam, come join us. Come help us win football games, right? Because he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. He'd probably take that contract in a heartbeat. He had to settle for Carolina. And, yes, he's having a nice fantasy football season, but he's not having winning football years. I just don't think they set Bryce Young up with a great recipe to succeed in year 1 as a rookie, Mike.
Yeah, so I think Adam Thielen was brought in to be a wide receiver 1, even though he shouldn't have. But he was also brought in to be that safety blanket for him. That is what he has been for a lot of the time. See third downs, he's always going to Thielen. I believe Hayden Hurst was supposed to be another safety blanket. You look at a lot of young quarterbacks, and what's their best weapon? Their tight end. So I thought that they we're bringing him in to kind of show what he can do and be that like another safety blanket for Bryce. DJ Chark, I was on the DJ Chark train. Signing him, loved it. It was either him or Mecole Hardman because they were both speedsters, stretch the field. But with that Frank Wright offense, there was no stretch in the field. As for Foreman, I believe what it was reported is that we sent him the same offer that the Bears did. He just didn't want to. I think that signing of Miles Sanders and then Chuba already being there, I think he felt like there was nothing that was going to be there for him. And he went to Chicago. In terms of protection for Bryce, we've been out our two starting guards all season. Brady Christensen, our left guard, went on IR right after week 1. Austin Corbett, he tore his ACL, I believe it was. It was either his ACL or his Achilles, week 17 last year. Or week 18. It was when we were playing the Saints for no reason. He didn't get back until mid-season, like a couple weeks ago. I think he only played 2 games, and he had another injury, just had surgery. He's on IR. So that's 2. And Miles Sanders. I fully believe that Chris Tabor, he fired Deuce Staley because of Miles Sanders. I think Deuce Staley pounded the table for Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders coming in and not doing much was that, like, all right, you're out of here.
Yeah, and Sanders kind of had, like, he's had an interesting career. He's had a couple good years, but he's also had a couple years where it's like, all right, he's left a lot of meat on the bone, seemingly. And, you know, when Carolina is Christian Metz is tuned in on Facebook. Thanks for joining us this morning, Christian. We appreciate you, brother, on the Buccaneers here, or afternoon, I should say, if you're on the East Coast. But we got West Coast Mike in the building, so you never know what coast is watching. But, J-Lo, let's ask you this. You heard Mike talk about it a little earlier, Baker revenge game. Now Donnie Pepin says it. Do you think that'll happen? And B, thoughts on Mike's thoughts about the Panthers? I think what he says makes a lot of sense. And I think it would have made a lot more sense for them to bring in a guy like Thielen and Chark if they still had DJ Moore too, right? Could you imagine that if you have DJ Moore, you have Thielen, you have Chark, and then you had a guy like Mingo? But when you do have 2 starting offensive linemen injured the whole season, as the Bucs know from last year a little bit, right? When we had Ryan Jensen go down, and then, oh, by the way, this year again, Ryan Jensen and Matt Filer have been down and out for a good amount of weeks now, or left guard and center, and Filer's healthy now, but he rides the bench. So we've had a couple offensive line injuries this year. J-Lo, thoughts on Baker revenge game in the state of the Panthers, or what Mike said about them?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I wouldn't call it a revenge game. I think it's just order of business. Baker already mentioned in the past that, you know, it's a business, you know, and he felt like he couldn't do any more good for Carolina, so he did so he made the best decision to ask for his release, and he did, and he ended up going to the Rams to better his game, and then it worked out coming here. So I wouldn't call it a revenge game. I just call just another game, order of business, go out there and try to win a football game. That's all what Baker wants to do. He wants to win. He's a competitor. That's what I like about him. And then as far as the Panthers, you know, I agree with you, Michael. I thought Stroud was the better option. I was never sold on Bryce Young. I felt like Bryce Young has a lot to learn, and in no disrespect, he's very small. He's an athlete, but he's very small. And at the end of the day, I mean, it was just a bad decision. Frank Wright obviously wasn't the guy for the job. Even Josh McCown got fired, the QB coach. I mean, the NFL, they hyped this up a lot when they hired Frank Wright, and they had all these coaches saying, oh, the Panthers are going to make a lot of noise. I just didn't see it at all. You know, train DJ Moore was a big loss. So he's like, there goes your number 1. Who you're going to have to replace? I mean, Thielen, no disrespect to Thielen, he's a has-been. He's not what he used to be. He's a guy who's going to go in there and make some clutch catches here and there, but he's not going to put up all-pro stats. It's not going to happen. And then you let a guy like Dante Foreman go, who I thought was very productive for them. Or let me take that back. Foreman chose to go a different route because he already knew that this was not going to go well with this new coaching staff. I mean, there's so many things you can put together. But I do have a question for you, Michael. For the state of the Panthers, do you think that the Panthers have a better chance winning with Andy Dalton at quarterback to this point instead of keep going with Young? Like, if Young can't get it done tomorrow, do you think you're gonna see Andy Dalton probably finish the season and try to get your guys some wins? What do you think?
No, I don't. I think they're going to keep Bryce in there, and barring an injury, if hopefully nothing happens to Bryce, but if he gets injured, then they'll throw Dalton in. I think they're going to let Bryce ride the wave, let him get his experience, because the best experience is to experience it. So just sitting on the bench, you're not going to learn anything, I don't think. And like I said, I think this new coaching staff with Thomas Brown taking over play calling, Jim Caldwell's now being in and talking to Bryce and being with Bryce during practices. I think this offense is going to look a lot different. I don't think it's going to be as stagnant. I think it's going to be a lot more motion just to see how it goes. And I think Bryce will improve. I think that it was all Frank Wright. Frank Wright was the issue. And if you look at how, and this is all speculation from Panthers Twitter the first few weeks, if you look at the first two games of the Panthers, could barely move the ball. You throw Andy Dalton in that week 3 against Seattle, they're taking deep shots, they're moving, they're playing great. So why was there a difference when Bryce was in? When all we heard all offseason was if there was any player that we could put in without very little practice, any rookie quarterback that they would put in without practicing would be Bryce Young, just because of how he prepares for games. So to hear all of this all offseason, the beginning of the season, and then have him have the season, there has to be something different besides Bryce Young. That's the issue.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
I agree with that as well. I think that Frank Reich is probably the one at the fault to be had. And as I said, we've seen it a little bit with him in Indianapolis, whether it was a young QB in Ellinger or whether it was a veteran QB in Matt Ryan over there. It just seemed like Frank Reich was not getting good things going over there. And speaking of good things going, not a lot of good news on the injury front for both of these teams right now. A lot of bad injuries are going on. A lot of people ruled out in this one. We're going to get Mike's thoughts on the Panthers injury report. First here, you got Von Bell, the safety, ruled out for this one with the shoulder injury. You got Hayden Hurst, the tight end, ruled out with the concussion. Tommy Tremble, the tight end, hip injury. He's doubtful. Then you got a couple questionable cats, including Jeremy Chin with the quadriceps injury, Uter Gross Matos with a hammy, Marquise Haynes with the back, Troy Hill with the hip, J.C. Horn hamstring. I mean, it goes on and on and on. How do you think this impacts the game tomorrow, Mike? And are there any injuries that you look at and go, man, that's going to be a key loss when we battle the Bucs on Sunday?
Von Bell is number one. Von Bell has been playing great for us. Having him out is going to hurt, especially with Xavier Woods being the other safety. Xavier Woods, love him, but the way he hits people when they're in the air, it's very questionable. He gets flagged what seems like every game. It hasn't been every game, but it seems like it. Even if it's clean, it's a bang-bang play, and they're going to throw the flag. J.C. Horn, just before we hopped on here, I saw a report that he got activated to the 53-man roster. So we'll see what happens there. Troy Hill has been our slot guy, so we'll see about that. That might hurt. And Jeremy Chin, I think he was activated, last week. And hopefully we get him back if Von Bell can't go. And for Hayden Hurst and Tommy Tremble, I don't see them being too much of a factor on the field if they played anyways. It seems like Steven Sullivan, our tight end, has been the number one tight end.
Which would make sense. You want to get, the up-and-coming tight – I mean, Hayden Hurst, journeyman, Tommy Tremble hasn't really done much, so why not try Sullivan? But between the tight end room and the D-backs, you guys might be a little bit hindered tomorrow. I think Von Bell, that's a big one. But as you said, maybe reinforcements on the way between Chin and J.C. Horn. That would be a couple of big-time playmakers that the Panthers would get back if they're able to go tomorrow. J-Lo, Bucs side of the ball, you got Levante David ruled out with the groin. He'll probably still miss another week if I had to guess after this one. Jamel Dean ruled out with an ankle foot. Again, if I had to guess, still probably misses another week after this one. Mike Green out with the calf. It's his second game miss now. Devin White with a foot. Adios. Servace Dennis doubtful with an illness. Of course, he starts last week. Now he's an illness this week. Then Chris Godwin questionable with the neck. Anything that alarms you on that side of the injury report? And secondly, I know it sounds bad to say, but I'm just interested to see what J.J. Russell and K.J. Britt bring to the table. We got to find out if these guys are good backup linebackers at that. They're young cats, they're good cats, and honestly, that's one reason why I'm a little upset that Servace Dennis might be out, because you like to get a guy like that experience, but at the end of the day, KJ and JJ, if they're going to be a part of this team, which it looks like they will be at least the remainder of this year and probably next year, that we're going to need to know if, hey, are these just practice squad guys? Or are they just special teams bodies? Or, what's their future as well?
I mean, it's a good opportunity for the both of them to go out there, make some noise. So if I say Dennis, that one really hurts because, he was having a good camp until he got hurt. Now he's got this illness. I was really hoping he would step in because he's probably going to be the future linebacker next year because obviously Devin's out the door. Adios. Chris Godwin with the neck injury, that's pretty concerning, because if he can't go, then obviously Mike's going to be double covered most of the time. You're going to have to double Mike. And then you're going to have to rely on Trey Palmer, who shows some flashes. And then Devin Tompkins, to me, is just a punt returner, a reverse guy to, get out in space. And after that, I mean, who else we really got, And it really sucks because Godwin, hasn't really produced too much as Bucs fans were hoping. I feel like him and Baker don't have much chemistry like he does with Mike. So hopefully Godwin can go. If he can't, then it's going to be a little interesting to see how the Panthers defense, changes things up. Because, all you got to do is cover Mike and then shut down the run, which is possible. It's going to be really questionable. With Godwin not going, that it could be an ugly game on both sides of the football because, JJ and KJ will be really interested to see what they can do. But our DBs had to finish great. Zion's taking a step back, regressed. Carlton, he'll either show up or he'll show out, one or the other. And then you got Winfield Jr., who's our star safety, but even he's getting tired of carrying the anchor, you can tell. He's gone from smiling to looking like he's miserable. And God forbid, when a player's miserable, that means they can't wait to get the F out of here. You know how that goes. So, like I said, at the end of the day, my major concern is Chris Godwin. I feel like our offense is going to be the one carrying this team tomorrow to try to get the win.
Yeah, and I'd like to see rookie Josh Hayes a little more, see what he can do. And Bucks Rays Bolt say you think Mike Evans is gone. I don't think he's gone after this year. I think we find a way to bring Mike back. A lot of people are saying that as well lately, that you need to get Mike back. I think we do get Mike back. I think our front office is smart enough not to let a moneymaker like that go. I mean, you look at merchandise sales, you look at all that good stuff, you look at team history pages, you look at team records. Mike Evans is leading the way on a lot of that front. And, he's a lifelong Buck. We've seen how Bucks have treated other lifelong Bucks of this era, at least. Levante David, he was drafted before Evans. He's still on our team. Will Golston, he was drafted before Evans. He's still on our team. Pat O'Connor, I mean, I know he was on one other squad, practice squad, but he's been on the Bucs since 2016, 2017 now. A lot of these guys come to Tampa and find their home, and they don't leave. And between Golston, O'Connor, Evans, and Levante, the service time has really only been in Tampa and for a damn long time now at this point. So I think the Bucs will do what they did with Levante. I think they'll do what they did with Will, and I think they'll do what they did with O'Connor, where, hey, maybe they'll say, you go ahead and test it, Mike, but, let us get the last gasp in there before you sign any ink to paper. And then I think the Bucs will strike, just like they did with Levante last year, O'Connor last year, and Golston last year. They gave each of those 3 long-tenured Bucs the opportunity to look, but sometimes you don't know what's coming, and you realize, hey, if this team's offering me the same money, I could stay comfortable in Tampa. Taxes don't hit me as bad in Tampa, and I already have a ring in Tampa. Oh, and I'm already beloved by the community. What's really the burden in leaving, right? We've seen it before. People have left, and it hasn't worked out well. And think franchise tag? No, that'll
No.
be on Winfield if we need it. We're gonna save the franchise tag for Winfield if we need it. But we need this win tomorrow, and let's start with that. Speaking of tomorrow, let's get into score predictions and player of the game predictions for tomorrow's big contest here. It's big for either draft, rankings. I know Carolina has submitted a couple picks to the Bears this year, but still, if you have the first pick of every round, you're still going to end up with some high draft picks regardless at the top end of the round. So whether it's playoff and winning the division, which Carolina's not eliminated yet either, tomorrow's one's got some big implications as you guys watch live here on the Buccaneers podcast YouTube channel, Bucs Life News Facebook. We're here with Mike Pastor talking Bucs, Panthers, NFL draft, and more for tomorrow's big game. J-Lo, score on tomorrow and your Bucs player of the game tomorrow. So far we have Pepin stepping 30-17 Bucs. What say you, J-Lo? What's your score and what's your player of the game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of like an ugly win, honestly, just because of the injuries going on both sides of the football. I say Bucs win 27, Panthers 10. I think we can hold the Panthers to 10 points just because how depleted the line is and how Bryce Young's play is. I feel like the defense will come together to keep them out of the end zone most of the game and give them one touchdown on some crazy play to give up. But I say 27-10 Bucs.
Who's your player of the game, brother?
Player of the game, I'm going to have to say I'd say Vita Vea. I think Vea's going to get in there and cause havoc, take on the double teams to give Canty an opportunity to put pressure on Bryce Young. I think he's going to be running for his life tomorrow, pretty much with all the blitzing we're going to do. Because I know Bowles is going to blitz a lot, and I say Vita Vea will be a big part of that, helping create the blitzes, open holes to get out to the quarterback.
Yeah, I like Vita Vea a lot, and he was a guy who I think he needs to play more. I really think he needs to play more a little bit, and we'll see if that comes afloat. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But I do think Vita and Cansey have to play more snaps, and I think Mike Evans reaches 1,000 yards tomorrow as well. Bucs raise Bolts as he predicts Evans his player of the game, and he predicts 24-21, a close one. Mike, give us your Panthers player of the game, and give us your score prediction on how tomorrow unfolds, brother.
Ooh, I'm really thinking it's going to be a close one. It's either going to be 24-21 or 17-14. I think both are going to kind of get moving. It really depends on what this offense looks like. If it looks like it's moving well, 24-21. If not, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, 14-17. I have to take my Panthers. Always got to. I think my player is going to be Derek Brown.
The big man from Auburn. How's he been doing this year?
Not as good as last year, like from a production standpoint, but he's been doing his thing still. He's in for a big payday soon.
Yeah, you always hear his name, see him flying around. So that was a good pick. Hopefully he can make his nest in Carolina. I'm worried about him on the forefront tomorrow with Hainsey and, between Hainsey and left guard Stinney. That'll be a good test with Brown up there up front to see how that goes. I got the Bucs winning this one, but I think, excuse me, bless me, had to sneeze a minute there, but I think the Bucs come out on top in a close one tomorrow. I got them winning 28-20, an 8-point victory for this Tampa Bay team. I think the Bucs continue to stay alive. I think they find a way to tie for first tomorrow. I don't see the Falcons winning in New York, even with Tim Boyle starting. I see Robert Saleh pulling that one out, and I see the Saints fall into the Lions, where the Bucs end up in a three-way tie for first place come tomorrow. 28-20, Bucs, and I'll say Baker, my player of the game. I think he goes out there, plays some pissed off football. You could hear it in his press conferences this week. You know, he wants to try and get back at David Tepper a little bit, the Panthers owner, and really go out there and ball for this Bucs team. He wants to stay playing playoff football. He wants to stay trying to earn a payday next year. I think he balls out. I think he's heard a lot of the noise, and I think he has a pretty damn good game tomorrow. J-Lo, what's your one big thing to look out for on Sunday as we almost walk it off here on the Buccaneers?
I say my big thing is probably, like I said earlier, Vita Vea, Elijah Canty, Logan Hall. I think our front linemen are going to be able to get in there, take advantage of a depleted offensive line. So I think we'll definitely keep Bryce Young in check most of the game. I don't see them run the ball well with Chuba Herbert, so I really don't see much of a threat as far as that goes. And on the offense side of the ball, I have to say look out for K. Dodden to get in there and make some plays. K. Dodden, he's like a safety blanket. And if Godwin can't go, and obviously he's going to be option number 2 or Rashad White. So I say K. Dodden on the offense side of the ball, and on the defense side of the ball, the front 3 linemen who I think will get in there and, get after Bryce Young and not give him any opportunities that they did Will Levis.
I agree with you there, brother. Mike, what's your one big thing to look out for as we head into tomorrow's game? What's going to catch your eye, and what are you going to keep an eye on?
Pre-snap motion. See what Thomas Brown can bring from the Rams to Carolina now that he doesn't have anybody watching over him.
Now that he doesn't have Uncle Frank stalking his play calling and
Yeah.
literally breathing down his neck like SpongeBob and Patrick Star back in the day. No, I think Thomas Brown is a good call tomorrow to keep an eye on. My thing to look out for is this. We'll be back here tomorrow for breakfast with the Buccaneers. That'll be fantastic. We will kick that off at 9:05 Central, 10:05 a.m. Eastern time. Get your coffee, get your eggs, get ready for the big Bucs game as we head to battle tomorrow with Carolina, 4:05 Eastern, to remind you guys of kickoff. And it is on CBS, right? Remember, it's not Fox gets every NFC game anymore. They switch off. And we do end up on CBS tomorrow. We got the kicking specialist, Feely, is going to be at the game. We got Lofton is going to be on the call as well. So it'll be an interesting presentation on CBS Network. And during breakfast with the Buccaneers tomorrow, we have a giveaway coming. You could win a Buccaneers mini helmet and a Mike Elstott Hall of Fame coin presented from the Bucs themselves. So that'll be a fun little giveaway package as we get into December here with our Hanukkah and Christmas t-shirts being made. We're going to have a whole month of giveaways from now until the December 29th, 30th. We're going to keep it going all month long. J-Lo, thanks for joining again this morning. What's your final word, brother, as we gear up for Sunday? Final word.
Just sit back, enjoy this wonderful day at Championship Saturday. Get, if you're really into the college game, into prospects and all that, looking into the future, possible Buccaneers, get on, watch those college games. I watch Friday night's game, Michael Penix and Bo Nix are the potential targets, possibly. You got Bama.
Pack is over. So sad. So sad. Rest in peace to the Pack.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild.
Did you see all their mascots here yesterday? That was awesome, man. Every Pack mascot was in attendance going crazy yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad ending to the Pac-12. Unfortunately, it's a battle of conferences, and I feel like SEC still one of the top ones. But I feel like the Big 12's coming up, up there, and then the Big 12, Big 14, whatever. I mean, it's more competition. I like it. But anyway, as far as my walk off, everybody just enjoy Saturday, Calm Before the Storm tomorrow. Please join in tomorrow's show, Bryce for the Buccaneers. It's always a lot of fun talking about time, game pits, and all that. And, show some love. Hit the like button, Like I said, show some love, There's a group of great guys on here that love the Bucs and talk football. Even if you're not a fan of the Bucs, join in, We love
Look
other
at
football
today.
guys.
We got great guests like Mike from Panthers side, right? So,
yeah. I mean, like I said, any other opponent teams in the future want to come join in, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. Like I said, even rivalry, we don't bite.
So Pops predicts, he writes in 31-23 Bucs tomorrow. Mike, thanks again for joining us, brother. What's your final word as you walk off the show here? As David is joining us on Facebook, better late than never. David Ferrara, thanks for tuning in. Mike, what's your final word, and where can the people keep up with you on socials if they want to keep up with your Panthers thoughts and all that good stuff, brother? It's been a pleasure speaking with you the past hour or so.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Keep up with me is Season Panthers, SZN Panthers, on Twitter or X. That's where I am most of the time for the games. You'll see honest reviews, honest thoughts, things that come straight to my head after each play, go right on there. There's no filter. So that's where I'll be.
Hey, and we got another matchup this year, so maybe we can make it work, and maybe you could join us again down the line about a month from now, a little over a month from now for the last one of the year. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I will definitely be here.
That sounds like a lot of fun, brother. Mike, you enjoy your Saturday, my man. Thanks again so much for joining the Buccaneers. We appreciate you, brother. Never be afraid to reach out if you need anything. I know once in a while we connect, so don't be a stranger, brother. We'll see you next month if I don't hear from you.
Perfect. Same for you guys.
Thanks, brother. Enjoy your Saturday.
You as well.
Thanks. That was the great Michael Pastor. He's really a fun time, J-Lo, talking sports and talking NFC South ball with him as we wrap it up here. Final thought is I do the closing little music.
Cue the music.
Yep, that's all we got. But great time as always, J-Lo, me, you, Mike. Can't beat that here on the Buccaneers. On behalf of Kat, Stunna, Bucko, and Huncho, and your co-pilots for today, J-Lo and Tampa Tones. You can keep up with me on X at Tampa Tones, Instagram, Tampa Tones. You can keep up with the program on Apple, Spotify, Google, Buccaneers Podcast, YouTube, Buccaneers Podcast, X at Buccaneers, and Instagram, Buccaneers Pod. J-Lo, enjoy your Saturday. Me, J-Lo, and Mikey are out of the building. You guys are fantastic. Fire the damn cannons. 3, 2, 1, touchdown, Tampa Bay. Payne Durham with his first career touchdown gets into the end zone. Baker Mayfield, you are ridiculous in your revenge game. Thank you, sir. Go Bucs. Fire the damn
Go Bucs,
cannon.
baby.
Until tomorrow. Join us same time, or same place, different time tomorrow.
Subscribe button, everybody. Go Bucs.
Go Bucs. Let's do it. See you, J-Lo.
See you, buddy.
Game on Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Buck.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little.
No, my camera's broke.